Well, folks, with that lovely intro you just heard, it means it's another fun and exciting episode of Kinda Creepy with our hosts, with your hosts, myself, Jason Emmett,
And Twisted Kid Matt.
with our hosts, Scully Scullington the third.
Scully Scullington the third.
Is our host. Guys, I'm supposed to cue Matt up for this shit, but whatever. Let's just start the show. We're doing a Bigfoot episode, so we might as well just let you know. As of today, Bob Gimlin, he's alive. We've got another good. Hey, if you guys have not done so, if you're watching this one because you're a Bigfoot fan or whatever, which we do seem to get some people that do that, make sure you go back and watch, especially the last couple. They're really good. We did a Gettysburg episode, which I think was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we did one on our thoughts on Amityville because there's so much history there, and whether it's a hoax, whether people are really divided. Like there's people like, no, it's the realest thing ever, and then some people, this is bullshit. And I think I've come to uh, my own opinion, which is maybe there were some real things, but a majority of what we've heard is bullshit based off much simpler things. So that's kind of where I lie on it. But
Yeah.
you can go watch the whole video and you can make your determination, your determining
Yeah.
factor.
Leave your comments below. Down there.
I
You were
was
waiting for me
waiting.
to say it.
No, you're gonna do it. You always do it. This week is another Bigfoot one where we have some really interesting evidence, but this one's a little different. Matt brought this one up and was like, "Hey, we need to talk about this," and I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Have you ever heard the Sierra Sounds?" And I'm like, "I've heard them, yeah, but I had never. I've heard them a bunch of times, but I've never done any personal like deep dive in them. I never really knew any information about them. Well, let's get into this. Let's talk about the Sierra Sounds for people who don't know. I first thing I want to say is I like our Bigfoot episodes quite a bit. Like I find them a lot of fun. Rarely do I find any of them kind of like eerie though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word. I guess it's the best word because today's is a little different because it is a little creepy when we hear it, and we will show photos when apt, and we'll have some videos in the background just for so reference. But this is all audio. This is all audible stuff. The Sierra sounds are all just pure audio. Um,
Hence sounds. Yeah.
yeah. If you don't know what they are, we're gonna
We're
try
going
to
to play
enlighten
them.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's two dudes involved in this. There's Ron Moorhead, who is very famous in the Bigfoot community, and Al Berry. I didn't know much about Al Berry, to be honest, so that was kind of enlightening. The Sierra Sounds are audio recordings that were collected by Ron Moorhead and Al Berry throughout an area in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and this takes place between like 1971 and 1974. This mountain range, not only is it beautiful, but if
Yeah.
you see this area, it's a huge, massive area of wilderness. And so like there are parts of this that people just don't go to. It's very, I think this would be the kind of place where you wouldn't be surprised. You may see them in an area where there's people, there's foot traffic. Like
Yeah.
the Provo, Utah Bigfoot videos are very impressive. And what's cool is both of those take place about a week apart. I think we talked about them way early
Yeah.
on in this show.
Mhm.
They're very impressive, and they are in
Can see.
For
a
reference,
little
put
more
them on screen.
the areas with higher foot traffic. Still not like urban areas. They're still somewhat rural. Shut up, Matt. I said it.
Yeah. I'll see if I can do a little zoom in on my eyes when you said that too. So, yeah.
I struggle with certain words, and rural is one of them. Okay, and the guys have made fun of me for years for it. But I practice, and so because
He
I get
does.
sick
He,
of
he
making
looks
fun
in
of
the
it.
mirror and
I don't
you
look
know,
at a mirror,
he's like,
but
Jason,
uh,
you got this. You got this. Roll. Ugh.
shut up. It's a dumb word, and it's a dumb, like why anybody would
Why
pair
can't they just say
certain
out in the
vowels
country?
and
God.
consonants. Why would people consonants and certain vowels put together? It's just stupid. Continents put together is
That's
Pangea.
Pangea, yeah. Which
Consonants,
I'm sure we'll talk about, creatures crossing the land bridge and
yeah,
appearing in other
yeah,
areas
makes
where
sense.
they're not normally seen. Because, yeah, and I know this is not how they were put there, but apparently there were moose that were shipped to New Zealand where they are not native. Yeah.
Yeah, that can be a
And
bad thing
they
sometimes.
tried to bring them there for a hunting population, and I think they didn't get them all. And yeah, that was
Now
rich
there are
eccentric guy. Now moose have become a cryptid in New Zealand.
interesting.
Yeah, that's another weird topic we could get onto at some point in time, is animals that have been taken out of
Yeah,
their natural habitat and thrive in other
there's
places
a
and
fun
become
episode of The
invasive
Simpsons about that.
species. Yeah.
So this cryptid though, Sierra Nevada mountains, 1971, 1974 is when these guys were going out there. These are believed. What we're going to play for you today, what we're going to talk about today, are believed to be vocalizations made by Bigfoot. Now, again, you get a lot of skeptics. I get a little skeptical, but the problem with this is these sounds have been analyzed by a number of professionals, electrical engineers, cryptozoologists, like just so many, and linguists, just like, and they keep finding things that make it hard to kind of dispute these things. It's just, and we're going to kind of get into all that. Now, before we start, like I said, there are always people who scream, hoax without anything beyond the fact that they just don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
As is always the case, Matt and I, mostly me, we read, we research as best as we can.
In this case, I went, wow, I heard these. Hey Jay, we should talk about
We just
this.
talk about them.
And then I fade off into the distance and just go,
Jay will do the research.
what are we going to find out? But I will concur with Jay on this. These are some weird sounds, man. Like it's bizarre. But yeah, I think this is going to be pretty interesting. So.
Yeah, and what I was kind of getting at is we do our best to research it so we can report back what we find.
Yeah,
we're not experts. We never state we are. We're not stating 100%.
If we get to the level, we'll put that on screen. Like
we're experts.
I mean,
We're not stating
talking
100%.
about Bigfoot. I'm good at
We're
it.
never going to tell you 100% whether we think something is real or not. We can tell you what if we think it is, but we can't tell you if it is. We're giving our opinions. We give based on what we see, what we hear, what we find in our research. Now, that's important to know moving into this and why we're going to give our opinions at the end, what they are.
Yeah.
All right. So 1971, Ron Moorhead, right? A friend of his comes back from a hunting expedition in the Sierra Nevadas, and they tell Ron that, hey, when we were out there, we encountered this animal thing, this creature. It wasn't like anything we've ever experienced before. Like there was something out there. Now you got to remember, this is 71. This is early days. It's like the Bigfoot stuff. It's there, but it's not. I think up at this point we've had Patterson Gimlin and just stories beyond that. There's not a whole lot of information. So Ron Moorhead, he's like, hey, I do some hunting and stuff. Let's go out there. So he's real intrigued by this. Makes a trip out to the area with that friend. He comes back to that area several times after that, and he would capture audio recordings and photos of tracks. We'll get into all of that, the tracks and all that in a bit. So, one of the men Moorhead would go out there to this area with over this time is a guy named Al Berry, who is Al Berry, in all fairness, was a self-proclaimed skeptical researcher and reporter. He did not necessarily believe
Sound
this.
familiar?
Yeah. He kind of was like, I'm sure there's a real reason for what they're seeing out there. But they would make several trips out there to a camp they constructed in the area. They actually make this little weird lean-to kind of
brush pile
enclosure that they could stay under, I guess. And again, we're going to get to all the exacts of where that is as opposed to where the audio recordings took place and all that. But they would basically stay in this little structure when they were out there. They would stay in there at night, kind of hide in that when they were doing the recordings. So I actually have a quote by Al Berry, and I kind of I thought this was like a really good way to kind of get into sort of what they were doing and how things were set up for them. So this is what he said. He said, as dusk became dark night, something approached camp from a ridge above. rapping on wood or rocks as it came. And when it arrived, two voices that I could discern, it vocalized, and the sounds carried through the trees, and as I have never heard human voices carry ever before or since. And it whistled a clear, beautiful whistle like a bird might make between its kind. And at one point, back and forth with us. This encounter went on for nearly an hour and a half, and another followed on the second night. And there were other encounters I can attest to later that season. I was able to get reasonably good tape recordings of the sounds and interaction, and we cast several of the foot impressions both in pine, mat, and snow. I looked high and low for evidence of the joke. I don't know what that means, including searching the others' belongings while they were away hunting. I'm assuming he means like he was checking to see if somebody was playing a practical joke on him.
Makes sense.
Basically, with nothing to write about until the story unraveled by itself, or I helped in with further research and investigation. That's what it says. I don't know. So basically, what Alberry's saying is he went out there. I don't know if it was just the two of them every time. I really don't know. What I'm assuming happened is they go out there the first time. Like, I doubt they took tape recorders the first time they went out there, because this is a setup, and we'll get into, like, there was a whole setup they had to do. I'm guessing what he's saying is, like, we went out there and we were hearing stuff, and like, so then we started recording. I don't know.
Yeah, like they went out on a fact finding mission, and they went, okay, let's document this. Let's see if we can catch it a second time.
Which is, again, the one problem I have with this whole thing is, by like no amount of research I did, they both claimed that they did witness. I think Ron Moorhead said he saw the creature on 2 occasions, like physically saw it. But there's no photographic evidence. Again, video would have been a little harder in the early 70s, but there's no photographic evidence as far as of an actual Bigfoot. We see tracks, which we'll get to. All right. So what they did, though, is they took audio equipment out there. They set it up. So when these guys go out there, it's kind of important to know, like, this is the 70s. So like they took, and I imagine at this point there's probably, like, I don't know, portable stuff with batteries, but they didn't take that, which maybe was a smart move, but they took a generator instead to run this audio equipment, and they run a microphone. Like, this is all important. It wasn't like they were just standing in one area and picking up what they picked up. They ran a microphone to a specific area. I'll get into all that in a few minutes. So we'll kind of give you the layout. But before we do, we thought you might want to hear the sounds. So we actually have 2 different clips of the Sierra sounds. And Matt, do you want to kind of like explain to people what they're going to hear in these 2 clips? Because it's weird. Like, the first one's not that weird. I think the first one is more what we are accustomed to.
Yeah. The main thing that everybody really kind of thinks of when they are talking about, sounds that a Bigfoot would make would be more of like a whoop.
A whoop.
Primarily what you think of when you think of Bigfoot vocalizations of any kind is the whoops. But they're also kind of known for other sounds, like you said, the whistling. But I primarily have heard, and they actually talk about it in this, where Moorhead said that there was a lot of knocking and rapping, and like not like freestyling or anything, but they're known for like hitting rocks and sticks on trees to make
That took me a second.
Mm-hmm. That's what I like to do, is make you think, get in your mind. But yeah, they hit trees with sticks, and that sound just like carries out.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to communicate over long distances.
Yes, when you're out in these areas, it carries for miles. Yeah,
people can do it too, and that is one of the things that people do to kind of trigger this. The reaction is to smack a tree with a big stick, and sometimes you get a response.
Mistake to me, because you don't know
who's doing it.
It's not why it's a mistake. You don't know what, like, how do you know 2 knocks doesn't mean war?
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what their rudimentary language means to them. You might trigger a Bigfoot apocalypse on accident. You don't.
That'd be kind of sweet, actually.
But it's the second clip we're going to play that I tell you what, we'll go into the first clip and then we'll kind of explain the second clip. I will tell you one thing. They are talking in this and they will make return calls where they try to
He's referring to Moorhead and Barry. They're trying to communicate with whatever they're hearing in the woods. So
let's go ahead and play the first clip. And these are a little long, but that's okay.
Which one talk to this?
It's a Pomeranian attacking in the woods.
Close ones are Moorhead and Barry.
Like laughing at it. That's our job.
There's some tree
Here's some knock,
We know where we look for tracks in the morning for sure.
What he said there is we'll look for some tracks in the morning and basically that I heard crossing the creek.
It's like it's really consistent too. That's not. There's a teenage Bigfoot voice crack.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks. It's a hard act to follow. It sounds like he talks to us and they talk to each other. Yeah. Right there, I just seen movement right through there.
All right, so a couple of things on this. And the second clip we'll get into here in a second. You'll get to hear a little bit more of certain things, but the whoops and stuff, I want to be clear. That is what you commonly hear. You hear that in a lot of areas. That's been picked up many, many, many times. And they've tried to attribute those to animals, owls, and things like that. They've never been able to. They don't. And we're going to get into all the scientific stuff behind that. But just understand that I kind of like that he was doing the callbacks because you could hear the difference. He wasn't able to do certain things that first call out did. I think that's pretty telling in and of itself. You're out in the woods at night, Matt. in the middle of the freaking Sierra Nevada mountains, and you hear that. I'm scared. I'm not. This is.
I'm not gonna
I'm.
go, hey, I want to talk to this guy. I'm gonna go, something's in the woods. It might know where I'm at. I don't know where it's at. I'm gonna be as quiet as possible.
I don't want you anywhere near me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there's a couple of things to keep in mind. We say that they were out there specifically for this purpose,
Yeah.
and I don't know how many times they've been out there and heard it before this took place. There's something that I guess we should probably bring up, and you can buy. They have a whole bunch of these on CD at this point. I think they converted them to CD.
Yeah.
Hours.
So if you ever want to just like roll down the street, just listen to the Sierra sounds, go for it.
Hours of this.
Throw
So
it on a
this is
playlist and just
which
go.
I appreciate that there are hours of this because the more, like we've talked about it before, the more you give, the easier it is to prove something wrong if you're faking it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they gave hours and hours of this is telling. Like I said, my only downside is the lack of photographic evidence. But all right, Matt. So you heard a little bit of it at the end of that one. We're going to hear more of it in this next one. Do you want to kind of describe what these next sounds, all from the same area, but what these sort of are, if you can?
It's going to be hard to describe, but off air and other descriptions that I've heard of this, it's less vocalizations and more of a language.
Talking, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we all know there's people in this world who they do this kind of thing just to get someone's attention from. I do it. I work in a warehouse. If I need to get somebody's attention from across the warehouse, I'm not going to yell their name necessarily. I'm going to make a noise that's something that they're not commonly going to hear, to kind of get them to turn around and go like whatever, and then I can flag them down and get closer to them. So I think that's kind of like what the whoops are for, and then the closer, just like in human communication.
Whoops, yeah, I think the whoops are what you said
use,
earlier. I think
like,
they're long
closer-
distance
Yeah, it'd be more like
communication.
Yeah, like up close communication would be, just speaking in a known language between the two individuals.
Yes.
Or two or more individuals in this case. It sounds like multiple that they're talking to. But yeah, like the whoops and the tree knocking would be more like long distance communication. And then what we're going to hear in this next clip, that if this isn't an actual language between creatures, I don't know what it is.
So I think that if you're these things, like we said, you're in an area that's okay. Obviously, if Sasquatch exists, the population can't be huge, right?
Yeah.
And so they're probably split up miles in these areas sometimes, but know that they're out there. The long distance is to kind of, I would assume, zone in. Like, hey, I'm calling out to you, or even this is how we track each other. And like Matt said, then we get close up. Like
now, and also like going back to, if I'm out in the woods, would I be yelling for something, especially not knowing what they're saying? Like, yeah, it could be Bigfoot apocalypse, but it also could be Bigfoot mating season.
Yeah, we really don't know.
Do you really want to find out at all?
And listen,
either way,
history of them not.
I'm sure Sasquatch is a tender lover, but I don't want to find out firsthand, especially if it's skunk ape territory. They've never bathed, and I'm telling you, they're probably a little funky.
They're supposed to be. The smell is supposed to be a really common thing when they're around. Real putrid smell. Yeah. But by all accounts, for the most part, a majority, time and time again, they don't seem aggressive. But
not unless they need to be.
But if you think there isn't going to be one that's hot wired different, like a Jeffrey Dahmer Bigfoot, we really don't know. Of course, they're probably. It's kind of like dogs, occasionally one is just bad, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it's going to go. So yeah, I don't know that I want to alert them, especially before I know
their intentions.
Right?
Are you friend, foe, or friendly?
The other thing that has been, this next clip has been old samurai movies and
Yeah.
the way the dubbing sounds over top, and that is very apt to what you're about to hear. It is very similar to that. So we can go ahead and play the second clip whenever you're ready, and let's get some thoughts on this one. Also sounds there's a lot of human and primate. This guy just sounds pissed. You guys kids, they left their room a mess.
I told you to pick up those Legos.
Got pine cones everywhere.
It's just me first thing in the morning.
He said that's not right.
That's not nice. I have thoughts.
There are words in there. Weird. Not real words.
It was at that point that I would be running.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff here, and here in a second, once we go over some of this, we'll go into some of the reasoning why people think it's a hoax and some of the things that kind of combat why it isn't. All sorts of stuff, because questions have been brought up like, why can we hear? They're out in the wilderness. We don't, why are we hearing them so directly? There's reasons for that.
And that was something I was going to bring up.
I want to say
the perspective of the audio seems to have shifted from one clip to the next, and because you hear him say that's not nice, but it's real faint and off in the distance in the background.
There's reasons. There's reasons for all of that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, a couple of things here. How can they get it? How could they get it this close up? There's actually a gifting rock, which is apparently some people believe it's a real thing or whatever for Bigfoot, but so there's an area that they are calling a gifting rock, a very specific area where this tends to go take place, so they can kind of target in on that. Now, like I said, lack of photographic evidence, except for there is a photo of a track. They go out and they take photos of tracks. There's an 18-inch track in the snow, and they say they also got a 13-inch photo of a footprint of a track. So we do have those. We'll show those in a bit and kind of go over all that. But this is the map they drew this map to kind of show you how the layout was. This is where they were staying. So as you can see, They are in the little, like, they set the recorder up in one area. They ran a 50-foot audio cable and hung a microphone over a tree branch. They aren't near the microphone. The microphone is in the area where it tends to be a little closer to where the actual sounds are coming from. They tried to keep a distance a little bit. So you can see a direct microphone hanging
Yeah.
over a tree might pick up a little bit better sound, and that's what they are much further away from that microphone. So that's what Matt was saying. Like, they, obviously, and the earlier recordings, that's not what's going on. They're recording something off in the distance.
Yeah, they probably had like a parabolic microphone that they're kind of pointing in the
I
area
don't
that
think so. I
they
think
did
they had
that.
a recorder and a mic, and I think they were just holding the microphone out. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Could be wrong about that. But this is a map they drew to kind of give people a little perspective about the setup and the area they were in. And that area with the microphone and where it says food, again, I think he said at one point that was like kind of like a gifting rock or something, where they would lay stuff out to try to get them to come over to the area. So, um, they had a direct line, but they were in that little lean-to thing with a cable running out there hanging over the tree. So at night, and you can see things like where they captured the tracks as compared to everything else. So, yeah. So I want to talk about. Well, we're doing that, but I kind of want to go over some of, like, the
Yeah,
not
and
just how they recorded.
I'm
Do what?
noticing something about up where it says sounds, where it says 19-inch tracks and the flat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it looks like they drew kind of concentric sound waves going out, so that they can kind of like indicate where the sounds kind of came from
Yes.
specifically, and then they
Yeah.
found the tracks there. I don't really know what flat means up there, but
I
yeah, it looks
assume it's.
like they had two different areas where they were
Well, it looks
capturing
like
audio
there's
from.
the way they drew it. Almost looks like there's a like it inclines there, and maybe that's just a flat area.
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
really know.
could be.
Be interesting to see the area, like, well, more up close hand or whatever, but I don't know.
And have they ever like released the
Yeah,
exact spot
I
where they
don't think
found
they've
this?
tried to keep it hidden. And I think they had taken other people out there back in the day. So I don't think it was something that they were like, no one can go to our secret area. I think it's just really hard area to get to.
Yeah,
And you have to be kind of experienced to get,
yeah.
or have a
It's a
guide or something.
inhospitable area.
So Ron Moorhead has said that they used a 1960s era reel to reel tape recorder, a microphone, like I said, a generator to power the whole thing. And they ran a cable 50 feet from what they call a hidden poachers camp. So I don't know if this camp had existed to some degree before they ever went out there.
Hmm. It
I'm
may
guessing.
have.
Anyway, they hung the microphone from a pine tree near what they called the gifting rock. Now, the reel to reel they use, like I said, 1960s era. It's something. This is a 60s era. I don't know that this is the one they used. Probably not, but a lot of them were this, so you can kind of get a feel for it. Again, I assume there were reasons they chose this. Maybe it was just equipment they had. I really don't know. Um, so here's the thing. I told you there were hours and hours and hours of audio recorded. These tapes have been analyzed by there was an electrical engineer. He actually found them to be completely unaltered, undoctored, and 100% authentic. There are also scientific research papers regarding spectral analysis done on the recordings. Um, the spectral analysis showed frequencies and pitch outside of human capabilities. Um, so again, these are actual scientists, not paid by these guys. A lot of them have taken the stuff they've heard themselves and done their own research. The evidence strongly supports the argument that these are non-human voices that are actually being captured, that it's not a person out there making those sounds. Um, the argument has been made that an unknown language is being spoken by these non-human voices, and that's backed very strongly by a highly credited crypto linguist. That's a real thing. When you think cryptid, you think, well, that's like a cryptozoologist. No, a crypto linguist is a real thing. These are men and women that are trained, like usually in the armed forces. So this guy's name was Scott Nelson. He's a retired Navy linguist. Like I said, in case you're wondering, a crypto linguist is their military or government intelligence professionals who intercept, translate, and analyze foreign language communications and then gather intelligence for national security and military operations. So these guys not only so it's not uncommon for them to hear a language that they don't necessarily speak, but they still have to decipher it and will learn it. Okay, and that's very important to some of the backup for this. Um, they undergo rigorous language and crypto logic training and are highly skilled in the ability to notice patterns in speech. So that's really important. I told when we were listening to that, I said, you hear what sounds like words in there, which is weird. So according to what some of these crypto linguists have said, and we can hear it, it definitely sounds like there's some kind of actual language being spoken here, um, which is crazy. Uh, if it's a made up language, you got to understand if these guys actually made up the language, it would still require enough linguistics knowledge to construct at least a basic, fully structured language system.
Yeah.
And that would be a lot for a couple of hoaxers to do, like a whole lot.
Yeah. And real quick, I wanted to briefly touch on the definition of just part of that word cryptolinguist, just as in cryptozoology and everything. The crypto,
Crypto, yeah.
it's
He's the dog from Superman.
yeah, which trust me, I thought that many times.
With a C, guys, not a K.
Yeah, crypto with a C. This is long before cryptocurrency, which we're not even going to touch on, but it is it means hidden or secret. So cryptozoology is
Right.
like the study of animals that are hidden or secret or unknown, basically. So essentially, what a crypto linguist would be doing is figuring, like he said, figuring out these different unknown languages. So
Codes and
yeah,
words. Yeah.
this guy wouldn't necessarily be in the business of dealing with cryptids.
Right.
It just coincidentally has,
They both mean
crypto
unknown.
in though. Yeah, they both mean unknown. So this guy, his business dealings are in hidden or unknown languages and deciphering that. So
Yeah.
I
I'm glad you
just wanted to bring that up. So
I'm glad you kind of broke that down. Actually, that helps because I think people get the wrong idea.
yeah, it could get a
Like
little
you're
confusing. It was like, oh, this guy's only studies
he
Bigfoot
makes up
languages.
languages. No,
No, he doesn't.
actually,
And
no, that's not what he does at all ever.
yeah,
That's what
and
makes it
something that I pointed out to Jay earlier is a shout out to the Kansas City Mavericks on this one. It's
only
our
important to a few people.
it's our hey, everybody in Kansas City who sees that knows what that is. But yeah, Scott Nelson,
So
fan of the Kansas City Mavericks,
there
apparently.
you go. So I brought up the fact that if you were hoaxing this, that it would be a lot of work, and I wanted to kind of bring up how much work it would be, and I thought, what better way than to give you a real life example? And there have been people, not necessarily since we've been alive, but right, throughout, probably even since we, but that have created languages. I mean, Elven is a full language, at this point, um, but I wanted to bring up Klingon or Klingonese, as it's called to the people who speak it, right? Klingon, it's a made up language that does actually exist. They started with a few lines for Star Trek the motion picture. So before Star Trek the motion picture, there was no language. They just spoke English. Um, and those lines were created by linguistic professor Mark Okren. Um, they then began to develop the language, which still only consists, like I think to this day is a lot fuller, but consists of relevant terms that were used in the series, not like it actually lacks more conversational words. And even this has taken years to fully construct with help of a bunch of people have contributed to this at this point. Again, this guy was a linguistics professor. Ron Moorhead, Al Berry, they're not. They're not linguistics. They don't do this stuff. That's not what their jobs were. So if if these guys are listening to this and notice not them, I'm like the all these engineers and these crypto linguists and stuff, and they're hearing recognizable patterns that sound like speech. somebody had to create those patterns. And what I'm saying is, for Ron Moorhead and Al Berry to have done that seems almost impossible.
Yeah.
So there's this thing called the language structure. All this is stuff I had to read about, guys. I didn't know any of this. So I read that you can hear repeating. Now I'm gonna just get a little technical on you here. I read that in this, what was analyzed, you can hear repeating morpheme streams, not morpheme streams, and grammatical rules, actual grammatical rules that are used in language. Also, high rising terminals, which have the intonation used by most human languages to mark an utterance as being a question and not a statement. In other words,
Yeah.
they have heard things in here that would suggest these things are asking questions, not just saying things.
Yeah. So, for example, if, in English, if we're asking a question, we kind of go like, hey, you want to go see the movie later? And it kind of goes up at the end.
I'll
Just like,
give you.
hey,
You said that in a perfect way, and you'll know it. I always called them question girls
yeah,
that end everything.
every
They're asking a
sentence,
question.
even if
And
they're
really, they're
not.
not asking a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
There used to be this girl. I'd be like, she's a question girl. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, she sounds like she's always asking me a question when she answers or when she ends her sentences. Yeah. So that's what Matt's saying. You kind of you raise certain areas, and when you're saying certain things, it's just how we talk, and it's
Yeah.
natural. The other thing is, whatever is making the sounds out there is capable of 5 octaves in one singular tone. And I don't know if you
I
guys
think
know
you already
much
know what
about
I'm
this,
about to look up.
but that's insane. Humans are only capable of 3 octaves in one tone. So these things are getting 5 octaves in one. In other words, the whoops, like whoop, like they can hit 5 octaves in that one tone. Humans can't do that.
You want to take a guess at what I was just looking up? Because there is somebody who actually does have that capability.
Are you Freddie Mercury? Who are we looking
Of
up?
course, you would go with that. Mariah Carey. So
Oh,
what you're telling me is there's a Harry Carey out there in the woods.
I'm a
I'm
Bigfoot.
a Bigfoot. I got a 5 octave vocal range. You want to hear my whistle tone?
It's great. What?
But yes, Mariah Carey has a 5 octave range. It has been documented for her. But do you know
She
the
has a 5 octave range, but
yes,
not in one tone.
correct. Yeah,
What we're saying is well, that's why I said Freddie
and
Mercury,
she's
because
considered one of the best singers.
same with Freddie Mercury. That's why I brought him up,
Correct. Yeah.
because he has a 4 octave range, which is very rare for men. But
Yeah.
again, he can't do it in one tone. That's the problem. These recordings show it.
Did
in
you know
one
that, or did you just look that up?
What, Freddie Mercury?
Yeah.
No, I knew that.
Dude. Yeah, I had to Google it, and he's just like, he's got a 4 octave range.
Yeah,
It's
I knew
spanned
that.
from a low F2 to a high F6. No big deal. No big deal.
I
did just Google it, and that's how I found out. I was like, oh,
Queen
he's
is
right.
one of my favorite bands of all time, but what I know about this is not made up BS. Scientists did a thing to show, like, and I sound like such a lame. They did a thing, but they did. They did research to show who was one of the best male singers alive that ever existed, and it's
Freaking
Freddie
Hank
Mercury.
Hill coming out here talking about Freddie Mercury. Freddie
Damn
Mercury was a
Freddie
great
Mercury.
singer, man.
But it was
sold him
Freddie
all my
Mercury.
propane.
They showed scientifically that, according to science, he was the best male singer to ever live because of his octave range. Yes, so that's how I knew that.
Scientifically,
Science,
the best.
He's the best.
Science.
So the last thing that they did is there's these sound waves, right? And they've been compared to known existing animals. These waves have, like, I don't understand what we're seeing here. I did when they were talking about it, but because they would kind of show it, but basically, they can compare these waves and stuff to existing animals, and they can't connect them to any existing animal. There's just nothing that really hits them on the chart. We can compare them to other vocalizations believed to be Bigfoot, though, that have been captured in audio forms, and they match. There are also they've researched this, and they've all, like I said, they've used this. So basically what they do is they can take tones and the waves, and they can compare them to other sound waves. And when they compared to coyotes and owls and all that, it does not match. You'll see rises and falls and all this stuff in weird spaces that just don't line up. But if they go out, and I actually had someone, I forgot to bring them, but other vocalizations from different areas of whoops and stuff, they match those. So it's the consistency. This is believed to be Bigfoot. Well, it seems to match this same sound waves that we got over here, but people can't do it. Other animals can't do it, which would suggest a creature that it's kind of like a whale, right? We can record sound
Yeah.
waves of whales, and even though Buddy the whale over here might have a deeper, that's my whale call, than Ralph 100 miles away, there's still
Yeah.
things that are going to be common in what they both do that they can attribute them.
And here we go. Okay, there's basically an animated version of the Sierra Sounds in Finding Nemo.
Is this
You already know
Dory?
where I'm going, Dory. Who are you? And that's what they're doing. She doesn't know how to speak whale. Theoretically, she does because she can communicate with the whales. You know, Moorhead and Barry didn't know how to communicate with Bigfoot, but they tried and they were able to somewhat successfully get a reaction or a
And might
response.
even be able to pull off certain things because some
Yeah.
of it does fall in our octaves and our tones, but some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I want to be fair here. Ron Moorhead,
To be
he,
fair.
he does believe in a few things that I personally do not. I do not agree with certain things. And that's fine. He believes Bigfoot can like travel through dimensions and things like that. I don't buy into that stuff. Some people
Yeah.
get a little kooky. He knows it sounds kooky. If you've heard him in interviews on it, he says like, "You can go with me here. I know it's going to sound weird." I don't buy that. Like I said, he does know that it sounds weird. It's just a little too out there for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't, I don't pretend like I know everything, but that just seems like we're getting a little too far. But that aside, I don't have anything to point at Ron Moorhead directly for. Some people have kind of come out and said, well, they're trying to sell their stuff, but I can't fault somebody for that either. You're out there, you're out there doing all this. You're spending a crap ton of money to do it, trying to recoup some, whatever. So I want to bring up, we're going to bring up an individual here in a minute and kind of some of the thoughts on this. But like, before we do, like now that we've both listened to the sounds and we've let everybody else listen to the sounds, before, and you've heard some of the scientific stuff on it, Matt, what are your thoughts overall on the Sierra sounds? Like, what do you think? Do you think this is Bigfoot, or are you just undecided? Like, what do you think?
I won't say without video, photo evidence, or possibly even personally being there that it is 100% Bigfoot, but whatever it is definitely unknown.
Right.
So I'm not saying they're communicating with a completely different cryptid, but whatever it is, it doesn't seem to be something that is known to science. This does seem like it's a huge step in discovering that. I think this is a big step towards understanding not only the possibility of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the grass man, whatever it wants to be known as. It's a big step in having more evidence and support of it existing. And it's just crazy. It is some very interesting audio.
It's so weird.
Yeah, the
And
fact that it's covering, like I was saying, like the both long range and short range communication, and not only like, I mean, like I can knock on something and that'll get somebody's attention close by. I knock on something bigger and louder, it's going to get somebody's attention further out. Like they're covering that. It's just so, we'll say compelling. It's very compelling evidence.
So again, these are traits that we see over and over. So same was probably going to go on with the audio traits over and over. These are things that are going to happen consistently because that's just animal behavior. It's just common animal behavior. So I think We don't know if it's Bigfoot making these noise, but what we do know, I said it in the first video, I think, we hear what almost sounds like human speak, but then we hear almost like primate speak. So while we don't know what it is, it sure does sound like it's humanoid in some form or another,
Yeah.
because no other animal really sounds like this. There are similar sounds in some animals, not the same though, and definitely not all. So there's a gentleman named Grover Krantz. Grover Krantz is I want to get into some of the skepticism of this. Grover Krantz is a really cool dude. If you've never researched this guy, he's just a really cool guy in this field. He's actually an anthropologist, okay, who later became a cryptozoologist as well as an actual anthropologist. So he was one of the first actual scientists to take the study of Bigfoot scientifically serious. He's the guy who he's one of the first people that tried to get them documented as actual animals, as actual living creatures. Didn't work for him. It's never worked for anybody, but he did that based off things he had seen, like actual evidence that had been presented. Um, he did believe Bigfoot was real after a while. He theorized that sightings were due to small pockets of surviving gigant gigantic you be the
Gigantopithecus. Yeah.
Gigantopithecus. Um,
Which,
I don't know.
as I've mentioned on this show, I think that is the most plausible
Well, Matt,
of.
yes, maybe,
Okay.
possibly. I don't know. But Matt, you want to know what's
Mhm.
funny? Because you brought it up earlier. He believed that they had migrated across the Bering Land Bridge,
Yeah.
which was later used by humans to enter North America.
Yeah.
So you brought it
Gigantopithecus
up.
was
You brought up
primarily over in Asia, and yeah,
right. So he thinks they used the Bering Land Bridge to get here. I don't know. I think the problem is maybe I really don't know if that's what they are or not.
it's honestly bringing in plausible science on it.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. And so maybe that have changed evolutionary over the years. That's
Mhm.
why in some areas they look
To
slightly
be
different,
smaller,
and
because if
especially
I
in some areas.
remember, yeah, Gigantopithecus. I'm gonna look that up. Like how
Orang
big
pendek,
they. Yeah.
for example, is smaller. It's not a big giant creature like this. I will say he started off. He
Yeah.
saw the
Maybe not.
Patterson. He saw the
Maybe-
Patterson Gimlin film, and at first he was like, "I think it's fake." But then he got his hands on it and studied it further and further. He got really into it. He's one of the guys that he later said, "No, I actually think this is real," because he noticed the gait of the creature and the anatomical features such as flexing leg muscles and stuff. This is one of the guys who discovered that stuff. Who said, "Wait, as you look at this further, we can see, flexing muscles. This isn't a suit. It can't be a suit. The gait, the way this thing walks, is too natural for it to be a suit." So he started off as a skeptic of Patterson Gimlin and ended up becoming one of the people that helped propel it as what he believed to be true.
Hmm.
He liked to use scientific evidence as his basis for everything overall. So one of the things that made he also became known for like Bigfoot tracks.
Yeah. As
So
in the ones he's holding.
in 1969, this is called the cripple footprint. This is one of the tracks that actually convinced him that Bigfoot was real. Um, in these casts, it showed what appeared to be a normal footprint next to a deformed or crippled footprint. By analyzing the differences between the deformed and the normal prints, he reconstructed the skeletal structure of the feet and concluded the prints were made by a non human, large masked bipedal animal consistent with descriptions of Bigfoot. And that due to their precise conformity of adaptations needed for the bipedal locomotion of such a large animal, that faking this would be almost impossible. So you guys need to understand, scientists, uh, anthropologists, this guy was, these guys, they can take certain things that we can't and show why, he can show the skeletal structure that had to create these prints. And so to fake it, you couldn't do it. So the thing about this is, though, um, he saw the tracks that Moorhead and Barry had taken photos of, and he actually said, "I think they're fake." Now, I do want to state that obviously this is his opinion; it's not, fact. But he was considered an expert in Bigfoot prints. I searched all over, by the way, searched everywhere I could to find why he said they were fake. I couldn't find his reasoning listed anywhere, so I don't really know why he said they were fake. But he has, he did look over their photos, just the photos, maybe the plaster cast, I don't know, and said he thought they were fake. So let's look at the photos we have. We have one photo of their track. So Matt and I have seen this, and we have our own thoughts.
That we have not
Now,
discussed them yet.
I
with
do
each
want to
other.
say that he Krantz by no means was saying that Moorhead and Barry were fake, were full of crap.
Yeah.
He thinks that these tracks were faked, whether faked by them or somebody else in their party. And even Al Barry mentioned, I tried to find if somebody else was faking, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
This track doesn't look legit to me.
It doesn't look legit to me either, for the record.
We purposely avoided talking about
Yep.
what we thought.
Yep.
Till the show. So I'm going to tell you what I noticed first of all, and then I want to see if you notice the same thing or if you notice something completely different.
Okay.
I have an issue with if this isn't snow, which it is.
Real quick. Let me stop you right there. Are we able to tell how big this?
Yeah, there's literally a
I
tape
know
measure.
that, but what measurement is it saying?
18 inches.
18 inches. Gotcha. Okay.
They got one at 18 inches and they got some at 13 inches. So
Okay.
a smaller
Gotcha.
one and a bigger one. Yeah.
Okay.
This clearly looks like the 18 inch to me because I can see 13, 14, 15, 16 on that. That's where I could lose it, but it's still bigger
Yeah,
than
I
that.
haven't zoomed in on the picture at all. But
this thing steps down in snow.
Yeah.
How come there's a clear break between the toe and the rest of the foot?
Unless it's walking like this,
With its why would its toes hook
pointing
in?
its toes down. Yep.
It seems
it's-
really weird to me.
Yeah, it's like they Googled footprint and then
The other
it like a
issue I
cartoon.
have is this is snow. Nobody picks up and steps straight down. There's no drag marks. There's no. It just looks like something went straight down in the snow.
Yep.
But it seems like if you were going to fake it though, with some kind of print, you wouldn't do that. You would do the break or you wouldn't do the break in the toe. It's almost like somebody dug it out. Like it just seems a little too precise.
Manufactured. Yeah.
So is that what you saw too, or?
Yes, partly. So I've also noticed that. I mean, you're focusing on the toes, which I am as well, and I want to point out like the main portion of the foot. It looks too symmetrical to me.
Yeah,
Like
I think that
if you were to rotate that photo, which I don't know if I can on here, but actually I'll leave a blank space so I can do this. I'll rotate it and put it up on screen. It looks straight up and down.
Yeah.
Like it kind of goes to a little bit of a peak and then down into like the little, teardrop shape down towards the heel. It looks, and I may see something totally different when I rotate this, but it looks very symmetrical in the way it was.
No, I think I agree
in there because if we go back to this, if you look at that one, there isn't really a break. I mean, there may be one if this foot was in snow, but it wouldn't be that pronounced.
Right.
Because your toes aren't like floating, an inch
right. They're not
away
going to hook
from
down in
the
the
rest
snow
of your
with
foot.
little ridges left
Yeah, the
over
ball of
it.
your foot. Yeah,
Maybe if I would buy that if this wasn't so deep in the snow, like because there is a small break, but it's not that. Now we don't know though.
It almost looks like a little bit of a wall of.
But like on cats and
of
dogs,
yeah,
it's different. They have pads and there is a break.
I believe they're referred to as toe beans, sir.
Toe beans, yes,
So
they are.
We'll call it that.
But you get what I'm saying. If a dog walks on the snow, you can tell it's an animal track because there are breaks in between the little toe pads and the back pad.
Yeah. Now, there's something else I wanted to point out as well that seems odd to me.
Okay.
The sticks in the middle of it.
Okay, right? That's my other problem.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I said okay.
There are sticks around it and everything, but
why are those right in the middle of it?
Why are they right in the middle?
Like they almost feel placed, which is weird, but so you can see the track more, like it makes them stand out.
Okay, but you know what else works? So does like I've seen people use
No,
It's like
I
a
don't think.
dye
I'm not
to highlight
suggesting
that,
that they put them there
to
to
highlight
show
it.
you.
Yeah,
It's almost like they put them there so that the track would stand out on purpose, not so they
like
could
for
show
somebody to
you
find it.
afterwards.
Yeah,
Yes.
like, hey, that's a
Now,
really odd grouping of
now
sticks.
I'm
Yeah,
going to say something in all fairness. We cannot see the area around, so
true.
maybe there are sticks everywhere and we just can't tell. But the fact that this landed perfectly on those and they don't
Yeah,
look that broken either. That's
there's hardly any sticks above it,
oh, and this
and
one
there's
stick,
just noticeable
the,
ones
the big
pointing
stick with
to it.
the Y stick
Hmm.
happens to stop perfectly where the track falls down.
Yep,
Just seems weird.
that was another thing I wanted to
So
point
you
out.
can see, and this is just our analysis. Um, Grover Krantz had analyzed hundreds of different tracks.
Yeah.
He ended up buying and like owning the cripple tracks. So this is
Wait, so he didn't cast those? He just
I
happened
know, I
to.
think somebody else and he just analyzed them and I don't know. I don't know,
Huh.
but he was his foundation or whatever owns these today. So like
By the
he's
way,
passed, but
if anybody wants to, like, gift Jay or I anything, both of us perhaps, we would. I'm just going to speak on behalf of both of us. I think we would both be fully on board in owning
a plaster
a
cast,
plaster cast of
that'd be really cool.
some like actual evidence.
That'd be really neat. Actually, I wouldn't lie.
Yeah, that'd
I'd
be
put that up on a shelf. That'd
hell
be
yeah.
cool.
You would. I would probably put it like right there, right behind me.
So, like I said, I tried, dude. I looked all over to see why Krantz said he thought these were fake. I could only find that he said he thought the track, nothing else, not the vocalizations. He didn't attack any of that. He didn't attack their story, just the tracks. He said they just didn't seem legit to him. And I know he had reasons. I just couldn't find them, but it's probably very similar stuff, more scientifically than we could put it to what we said, though. Other skeptics have said, difficult. They've pointed out the difficulty of accurately recording a distant sound from 50 feet away, even with modern day equipment. But again, they ran it 50 feet. Like, that's what people need to understand. They were 50 feet away from it, but they ran a microphone that far. So I don't really know about that.
Yeah.
Some researchers,
And if they're putting it at that gifting rock, they are attracting. If they're putting stuff at the rock,
you're trying to
like
get
food
dolphins
or
in.
whatever, they're trying to draw something to the microphone to get it as close as possible. So it wouldn't
There
have been
also,
that far away.
and I want to point this out, and then I'm going to point out. So there a lot of researchers have questioned the feasibility of the equipment that was actually used, given that it was so vintage and the location of the recording and things like that. What I've noticed here, though, is everything that people kind of attack. They also attack like the primitive nature of the recording equipment and the recordings themselves, saying modern. But you got to understand, modern equipment make it a lot easier to track and record animal sounds with a lot more precision. But this is not the case in 1971. This is 71. They're using stuff from the 60s. And again, people are like, well, why are they using that? Because this is probably
That's
equipment they had
all they
available.
had. Yeah. In the reel to reel that we showed earlier, kind of looks like it was something that was just commercially available.
Yeah. And
then again, it wasn't the exact model that they used, but like from what I've heard, it wasn't exactly a small device that they took out there.
no,
They had
like
to,
I said, they took a generator.
they had to heft that thing out
Power the
through the
thing.
woods in rough terrain.
Correct.
And any other equipment, cables, microphones, headphones, whatever they needed to use to record it, they got to carry that into. Let's see if I can pull the picture up again. That you're going to tell me they're going to carry
this
that
area, as you can clearly see, is an area where people go on average, because one
Yeah.
of these is like
there's a little bridge right there in what clearly looks like an area that they kind of
they're
made
in the
safe
mountains
for
of
people.
this area.
Yeah.
That's important to know.
Do you see any roads going anywhere? No, they had to hike that into the woods.
Yeah, and they had to carry it. Yes, in and out. So what I'm saying is, most of the attacks you get here are people, and I get it. The skeptics.
Mhm.
They're skeptic. They're not saying it's fake, but the reasons. Look, well, what about this? What about that? But none of it is definitive. They're lying. What they can't attack, even though they'll say, well, the sounds sound almost human in spots. Only we know they're not. And that's the problem. The science behind the sounds themselves is hard to dispute. And these aren't people with agendas who were hired by Moorhead and Barry to debunk these sounds. These are people, a lot of them, who just took the sounds themselves and said, well, can we find some reasoning behind these sounds?
Yeah.
And these sounds have been analyzed by dozens of people over the years.
I'd be curious to know how many of them were just given a recording with no labeling of any kind and said, "What do you think of this?"
What do you think this is? Yeah, let us know.
And
And here's the thing.
that may be exactly what they did.
Dozens of times these have been analyzed, and to the best of what I could find, not one person has been able to debunk the sounds themselves as fake, and has not been able to. So is that the same track?
It looks
It
like
is,
yeah.
because there's a Y shape, but it looks darker in that photo. Of course, this would have been a newspaper print or whatever, so
Yeah.
I guess it would be. But
And
no
it
one's been
says
able to
it's
debunk them,
20 inches in the photo. So.
and no one's been able to.
Oh, this is the back of an album.
One
BF
of theirs
record.
that they
Yeah,
sell.
1975 Bigfoot Records.
You can buy these, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, you can still buy the sounds.
Yeah,
And
it looks like
Moorhead's written
Side 2
books.
is like a mixtape of just various like freestyles that Bigfoot did out in the woods.
By the way,
I'm making a joke on that. That's not.
Ron,
it's actually
Ron
whistles.
Moorhead, he's written a couple books and stuff if you want to read those as well. And still alive, and he'll still talk about this. So
Hey,
he's very open about it.
come on the show, man. We'd love
I
to
might be able
discuss
to
this
get
with
him.
you.
He will usually
Let's
get
reach out.
So, but the thing is no one's been able to debunk these. No one's ever been able to find an explanation for these.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It actually says the model, and I'll highlight it on the screen in the edit. It says the model was a Sony TC 126 stereophonic recorder utilizing a Sony F9. Okay,
there you go.
I'm gonna stop describing it, and I'm gonna go back to what I've said previously. The fact that people are willing to put in the exact
everything, man.
models of everything that they used that honestly, like that moment of me seeing that was me believing this story even more.
Partial scientific analysis to, I can't read it all, but
Yeah.
Spectrographic study of the, I didn't read this. It's just a cool photo.
No, that's cool. It's literally the back. It looks like it's the back of an album of like a vinyl.
Yeah.
And it says produced by Barry and Johnson, story and notes, which I'm sure if we like took the time to read through it even more, there's probably some narration explaining what it is, followed by it says narrator
There's
sets
a
the scene,
narrator,
leading to angry display and what seems to be a heated argument between creatures. So that's side 1. So, but that honestly that lends a little bit more legitimacy
whistle call
to me.
exchange, rhythm and blues. That's what it says. I can't read that.
That says blabs. Like blah 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 blah. Yeah,
rhythm and blabs. It's fuzzy to me, so I can't.
A final note, which I would say that's probably from a narrator. But
so anyway,
something else I wanted to point out with this photo, the photo of Barry and Johnson up in the upper right corner.
Yeah,
that's the structure that they were staying in. If that's the case,
when they were recording, yes. I don't know if they slept in it all the time, but that's where they would kind of go into structures.
Oh, I didn't realize the size of it. Okay. Yeah. So one of the other pictures we had up, that doesn't really show the size. It looks small in there, but when you put them next to it for scale, it's like, oh, that's pretty good size.
Yeah. Yeah, they would go inside of it to that's where they kind of stayed, at least when they were recording. It's a camp, so I would imagine I don't know if they slept in there. They might have, I don't really know.
And that appears to be the same photo that was on the back of the album.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. If not, definitely from the same series. Like,
sorry, that just all like seeing some of the stuff that was on there. Yeah,
found more stuff. So
it even says the date and everything that it was recorded, October 21st, 1972.
This is one of those things where, again, we're not stating 100% that it's Sasquatch. What I can say though is, because that track seems awful weird to me, but we don't know either. Weird things happen. We really don't know why that track is the way it is. but we don't really know. I do notice that another weird thing about that track is there's a toe off to the right that doesn't line up with the rest of the foot. But that being said, um, yeah, we don't know. What I
it's
tell you is it's
I was
really really
detached by a couple
hard
inches.
to debunk this thing, and it's really really hard to find a plausible explanation
Yeah.
beyond something that we just don't know what it is, and that's so it's just more evidence that goes into the Bigfoot file. We've over the history of this, the people have found hairs that are of unknown origin that don't fall into anything normal. We have photos that have been analyzed. We have videos that have been analyzed, and there are some that it's like we can't. This one seems bogus, and we don't have enough. And then there's some where it's like, hey, this one's showing a lot of stuff that would be hard to fake, and this kind of falls into that. I think in the end, what I believe is yes, I think Bigfoot is out there. Yes, I think a lot of this stuff is real. Yes, I think a lot of this stuff is fake and hoaxed. So I don't know. I think that the fact that they've handed everything forward for people to analyze and even said like, here's where we did it. Here's the model of stuff we did it with. Here's how we did it. It says a lot,
Yeah.
So I don't know. My thoughts.
Yeah.
I think this is
And
definitely something unknown.
yeah, I agree with you on that. The fact that they are willing to put this much of what they have captured out there for not only people to check it out, but to scrutinize, not
Yep.
just analyze it, but like pull it apart and just go, this is what we think. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is what we think.
And
And
they welcome people.
yeah,
They welcome scientific analysis of
yeah.
this.
And we are absolutely not scientists in any way, shape, or form. Um, if we were, we would definitely not call ourselves the things that we
My
call ourselves
degree
on
is
here.
my degree is in applied science, but not for this.
Yeah. I don't have a degree.
Close. Not even close.
So, no.
So, yeah.
Uh, but the fact that, like I said, the fact that they're putting this much out into the world and to this day, not, you know, not making any like there's no backpedaling is what I'm trying to get at of saying like, well, I mean, there was a different time, the audio quality, whatever. If they're sticking by it and can still present, audio files and everything for people to break down, and then people are breaking it down and finding exactly what they're claiming. I mean, it's leaning more towards whatever they recorded is not of human origin. I like to say things in a fairly vague yet specific way to, it may not be a
Yeah,
Bigfoot,
screw
but
that. It's
whatever it
Bigfoot.
is, yes. Nah, man. Nah,
It's
man. It's a
Sasquatch.
Gigantopithecus.
He's a gigant. I can't say that, so I'm not gonna. Um,
Gigantopithecus. And so I did look that up. It was a colossal prehistoric ape that stood approximately 9 to 10 feet tall and fully upright.
yeah.
It made it the largest primate ever known to walk the earth. So, again, it is the most plausible answer for what it could be.
And listen, man, it's we. How often have we been like, this thing's believed to be extinct? Oh, wait, there's a Tasmanian tiger. We've seen photos, so now they think that maybe they aren't 100% extinct. Like things like that. It happens where they think something's extinct or gone, and then they see one or they find one, or so. How do we know? We don't know.
Huh.
So, with all that being said, you guys can let us know your thoughts, of course, and the comments is always welcome. If you want to drop us a comment down below, what do you think these are? Do you think they're legit? And did they creep you out a little bit if you would have heard that at night? Let us know in the comments. You can also email us kindacreepyshow@gmail.com. You can email us there. We are also on some of the social medias. Facebook's our kind of our biggest one. Really is where we keep the most. We've been talking about doing a little more on Instagram, but Facebook, we have a Facebook group. That's probably where you want to go.
Yeah.
That's where we're kind of on the most. But
We'll update our contact information for the easiest, most
yeah.
frequented things. So,
Yeah. But let us know your thoughts. Join the group over there. It's a lot of fun over there. We say happy birthdays to people and send weird photos and all kinds of fun stuff. Please hit like, please hit share, and of course subscribe to the show because it really helps a ton in the algorithms because YouTube's weird about that kind of stuff. So we appreciate it. But sharing is great because sharing is caring. And also, it helps the show a bunch, and we get more eyes on it. Guys, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so very much for coming today and sitting with us and talking Bigfoot and listening to us laugh and carry on like fools and try to do our impressions of Harry, Carrie, and Dory. And
Just a weird wrap up.
Will.
Harry Carey as Dory. Harry Dory. There we go.
Oh no. But guys, with that being said, because we're not going to beat Harry Dory, there is one thing that you guys probably need to do, I think, each and every week, because if you don't, it just doesn't make sense. And that is, you should all keep it creepy.
This is kind of creepy. Goosebumps rising on my spine.